All right, we have to talk about the NBA MVP race, which is shaping up to be the most competitive race that we've had in many years. So I'm a voter, so I want to lay out what my thinking is as we come down the home stretch of the season. And I want to divide these contenders into tiers. And I'll kind of lay it out that way. My third tier of NBA MVP candidates, I want to rattle them off. Jalen Johnson, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, they're really everybody else. Anybody else that would be in consideration on that back end are in my third tier. Good players, top 15, top 20 type players, but not guys that I have really considered for MVP this season. The second tier of guys, I've got Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, and Luka Doncic. Three of those guys, kind of self-explanatory. Kawhi's been on a great run this year with the Clippers. Donovan Mitchell's having statistically his best year with the Cavaliers, and Cade Cunningham has been the driving force behind what the Pistons are doing this season. I think a lot of people would ask, well, why is Luka Doncic on this second tier? And look, Luka is the most singularly dominant offensive player in the game right now. The run he went on during the Lakers' 9-game winning streak, averaging 40 points per game, shooting close to 50% from the floor, close to 40% from three. That was a completely overwhelming stretch. But I can't get past the lack of defense with Luka Doncic. That, to me, is what knocks him off that first tier. I'll throw a number at you. Luka has an individual defensive rating this season of 115.6. That would rank 119th out of 180 players with 25-plus starts this season. So statistically, you look at that metric and you kind of cringe. And that sort of matches up with the eyeball test. Like, you look at Luka, and at times, not only is he not just not good defensively, at times he's not even trying on that end of the floor. And you see it with the complaining with the referees and all the issues he's had there all season long. Too many times he's left his team alone going 4-on-5. That's not to knock him out of the top 10 in the NBA, but in terms of my MVP ballot, he's on the second tier. So that leaves four players that I've got in the first tier. And I'll start from the top. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the defending MVP. You've got Victor Wembanyama making his first run at MVP, Nikola Jokic, and Jaylen Brown. So in no particular order, let's kind of run through these. Jaylen Brown, who has thrust himself into this MVP race with an absolutely outstanding season, averaging about 29 points per game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He's got efficiency numbers that are pretty comparable to where he was last season. His defense, statistically, his defense hasn't been great, but it doesn't really match up with the eyeball test because Jaylen Brown, seemingly night after night, has not only accepted the toughest defensive challenges, but sought them out. I mean, I was in LA this past month, or I guess month and a half ago, when the Celtics played the Red Hot Clippers. Jaylen said to the coaching staff, I want to guard Kawhi Leonard. He did a credible job defending Kawhi that night. Against the Thunder this week, Jaylen Brown said, I want to defend Shai, did a credible job against Shai down the stretch. He has consistently asked for the toughest defensive assignments, and he's performed well in them. This is not Jaylen's fault, but what sticks with me is that Jaylen Brown competes in the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference is the worst conference of the two. There's no denying that. So Jaylen Brown, night after night, is getting maybe lesser matchups than the three other guys that are in this tier. Not to say he doesn't deserve it, not to say he's not going to get my vote at this point, but that lingers with me a little bit, that as well as the Celtics are doing, and they have been astonishingly good this season, it's been against a collection of teams in the East that is inferior to what they are in the West. So that's Jaylen Brown's argument. Nikola Jokic, the season he's had has been remarkable. He is leading the NBA in rebounding and assists. No player in NBA history since Wilt Chamberlain has led the NBA in rebounding and assists. And when you go back to when Wilt did it, the NBA wasn't even counting averages per game. They were talking about totals that year. So this season, Nikola Jokic could be the first player to lead the NBA in assists per game and rebounds per game in the same season. A remarkable accomplishment for a guy that has accomplished a ton of stuff. And he has dealt with a lot of stuff this season as well. Aaron Gordon, he's only played 31 games. That's been a huge loss for them. And if you look at things right now, the Nuggets are just a game and a half back of the Lakers for that number 3 seed in the Western Conference. If they could overtake the Lakers, they'd have basically 2.5 games because the Lakers have the tiebreaker. But if they can overtake the Lakers, that removes one obstacle for Jokic, that is he's not on a top 3 team. I think people might be less inclined to vote for him given that he's not on a top 3 team in the conference. What hurts Jokic is the same thing that hurts Luka Doncic. He's not a good defensive player. In fact, he's only one spot higher than Luka in defensive rating. He's 118th out of all those players. On top of that, Denver is not a good defensive team. They are bottom 3rd in the NBA in defensive efficiency. So it's a very small margin there, but I think Jokic not being an elite defender and not being on an elite defensive team, that could wind up working against him. So you got those 2 guys in the mix, but 2 guys that I think are more competing for 3 and 4 right now. The top 2 spots, it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and it's Victor Wembanyama. And these 2 guys, when you pull the numbers, they're incredibly comparable in every possible way. I don't want to get bogged down too much in the numbers, but the Spurs, when Victor Wembanyama is on the court, they have a 120 offensive rating. That would be 2nd in the NBA. And they have a 103.5 defensive rating, which would be 1st in the NBA, plus 16.6 in the net rating. The Thunder, when Shai is on the court, 120.7 offensive rating. That would be 1st in the league. 105.7 defensive rating. That would be 1st in the league as well, and a plus 14.9 net rating. Wembanyama and Shai are 1st and 2nd in the league in net rating. Wemby at plus 16.6, Shai at plus 14.9. It's among the qualified players in net rating this season. So all the numbers say these guys are incredibly close. What I go back to, though, are the numbers that Shai was putting up early in the season. Early in the season, when Jalen Williams was hurt, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was on fire. Shai looked like the surefire repeat MVP early in the season. He was averaging well over 30 points per game. He was giving you about 7 assists per game. He was averaging about 5 rebounds per game. He was shooting in the mid-50s from the field, and he was shooting from the high 30s, low 40s from three-point range. So you have to account for that part of the season. They were 33-4 this year in the games that Shai has played and Jalen Williams did not. So he has been there for his team when they've needed him the most. Not to say these other guys haven't. I mentioned Jokic being without Aaron Gordon, Jaylen Brown being without Jason Tatum for most of the season. Even Wemby, he's been missing some guys, and his team is very young. There's no doubt about that. But I think you have to look early in the season, too, when you're accounting for the candidacy of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Victor Wembanyama, the last 3 months, best player in the NBA. Dominant two-way player. But there were 2+ months before that, and in those 2+ months, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the best player in the league. And he has been, at worst, the 2nd or 3rd best player over the final 3 months of this season. So all I can say is it's ultra competitive. I think there is still room to maneuver if the Spurs can leapfrog the Thunder in the standings, and they're right there. It's a couple of games back. If they can leapfrog the Thunder in the standings, I think a lot of people will be inclined to vote for Victor Wembanyama. But right now, to me, it is a 4-player race. Shai, Wemby, Jokic, Jaylen Brown, all 4 of these guys incredibly deserving. All 4 of these guys with incredible arguments. It's as difficult an MVP race as I've had to vote on in all my years of voting. And I still think with weeks to go, that this award is very much up for grabs.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.